So, fam, we're on Facebook today along with Rockfin, along with YouTube. Because
you want to know why we're on Facebook?
Yes,
because there's a lot of neoliberals here and a lot of progressives who think they're progressive that have been shit posting things about doing calls for Biden and vote shaming people who are voting third party in California. On top of all of that, in freaking California, the bluest state in the West. I mean, well, maybe, I don't know. It's extremely blue. It's one of the bluest states in general. I mean, we have Oregon, Washington, California, all these states you could vote third party, grow the third parties, and still, if you care about Biden winning, Biden would still likely win. This is where we're at right now. But instead, what people are doing is vote shaming people for voting their conscience, and they forget. It's like they have selective amnesia that we didn't do this thing 4 years ago. We were here 4 years ago being vote shamed to vote for Hillary Clinton. Now, let me ask somebody who voted for Hillary Clinton in a swing state, Pasta. You voted for Hillary Clinton in a swing state. You were a huge Bernie supporter.
Ow. Why are you bringing up bad memories? My heart, fam.
And you know, and I was a little disappointed, you know, when I saw that. But guess what, Pasta? Why did you do it, and why are you not going to do that this time, even if you were in Florida?
Well, because number one, the same thing we're witnessing right now, what you're talking about, is what I succumbed to last time. I really bent the knee because I caved into the pressure of being called a sexist if I vote for the pussy grabber, or if I don't vote for Joe Biden. If I don't vote for, I get them mixed up. If I don't vote for Hillary Clinton, I'm supporting the pussy grabber. I'm supporting the racist. I'm supporting the misogynist. I'm supporting the warmonger, despite all that history that Hillary Clinton had and all those mistakes. And I really caved under the pressure, and I signed my mail-in ballot. I put my Bernie shirt on. I jumped on a plane and I moved back to California crying when I did it. And after everything that transpired and seeing the behavior of the Democratic Party, and believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, Johnny's been here long enough to see it firsthand, how the Democratic Party behaves, how the fact it's just a corporate mechanism that doesn't want change, how it's a corporate mechanism that will never give you any change. It will always dupe you and always try to pressure you into not vote for the other guy. And guess what, fam? I'm not falling for it again. And I want to say that your video that has 1.7 thousand views should have 10.7 thousand views, because she hits it right on the nose, goes over everything we went over. They're doing it again, ladies and gentlemen. Why? And I'm gonna make a statement right over here again with the identity politics. You're just privileged to go vote for to not vote for Joe Biden. Okay, this is why Donald Trump is in office. Okay, because you tell somebody who's poor, who, despite his privilege, that you shame him into try to vote for you, it just sets off this whole freaking set of fireworks. And once again, I'm just so pissed off about it. You're not going to shame me into voting for a segregationist. Period. Not happening. And
not to mention the fact that it's privileged to vote for Joe Biden because you think that Joe Biden is somehow better than Donald Trump. That is a privileged point of view. Somebody called Pasta a privilege, and he's using his white privilege for voting for not voting for Biden,
not even voting for Trump.
For not voting for Biden. And it's like, are you going to call me white privilege too? Like a woman of color, an immigrant, you're going to call me white privilege too? Because I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden? Because I think he's a fascist? He's a crypto-fascist, just like Donald Trump is a fascist? That they're two sides of the same coin? Are you going to shame me for not doing that? Because all that does is radicalize people to not vote for him. That's all it did. When the Green Party went into Wisconsin, Texas, Pennsylvania, and tried to literally completely rig the elections in their favor because they know that they're vulnerable right now. They know people are sick and tired of this duopoly, which isn't even a duopoly, it's an oligarchy, and that they're going to lose, and they're scared because they don't want you to vote your conscience, because they don't want your vote to count. They select and elect who becomes president. The vast majority of our elections are completely unfair, and it's time people stop pretending that we can't talk about it.
Because wait a second, fam. What are you talking about? What proof do you have that Joe Biden rigged the elections? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe the fact that the Democratic lawyers in court, in a federal court, with the Jared Beck case, where Niko House was in the house, and they said, you know what, we can go to the back room filled with cigar smoke and pick whoever we want. We don't have to give you the results of the Democratic primary. We don't have to give you democracy. They didn't pay any price for that then. We don't have WikiLeaks to prove it now, but what makes you think they will change?
And not to mention the fact that aside from that, 2020 had its share of election fraud that we documented, that we were on top of, that the Bernie Sanders campaign itself ignored and framed some of the people in charge here, framed as conspiracy theory. And then, of course, what happened? We were proven right, unfortunately, because guess what? Bernie should have slayed California. Biden shouldn't have had any delegates at all. Bernie Sanders should have won New Hampshire. The exit polls were off. There were so many issues with the machines. The poll workers told us. They came here and they told us that this was going to be a disaster.
Polling at 8%, but gets 26% of the votes. Didn't even come. This is Joe Biden. Didn't even come to California to campaign during any of the conventions because he wasn't wanted there.
So we're working on.
You tell me.
And we're working on this documentary, fam, that we're gonna be showing people. Yeah. But there's a lot of documentaries out there. It's the fact that people just want to continue believing in the system. So
yeah. They don't really expose. We're not having the real discussion we need to have when it comes to our elections.
We're not going after
because
the
we
core.
wouldn't be in this. Exactly. What is the problems? All we're talking and advocating for is free, fair, and transparent elections. Something so simple. The excuse we use to go around with our imperialism and topple one democracy after another by saying their elections were a sham, Maduro's elections were a sham, Chavez's elections were a sham, Lukashenko's elections were a sham. Well, we have the worst fucking elections. Even the Jimmy Carter Institute says that the Venezuela elections is one of the best in the world. Ours, there's so many areas of destruction. And even when a person like Jimmy Carter says, hey, listen, the mail-in voting is ripe for fraud, you want to say, oh, no, this is just another Donald Trump thing that he's making up to cheat the election. No. The Democrats cheat as well as the Republican. It's a bipartisan practice. And if we really want real systemic change, we have to tackle that first and not bow into it and go and vote for Joe Biden like the good zombie sheepdog that you are.
And let's even not even mention election fraud, even though it's one of the major things that literally led us to this very moment. Let's just talk about the fact that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party have spit in your face and given you absolutely nothing. They've given you absolutely nothing. In fact, they told you in the middle of a pandemic that they would veto Medicare for all.
That's what Joe said.
That's what Joe said. He said he's not going to defund the police. We're going to talk about Breonna Taylor, and we can talk about all the other people that have been shot by police. Why do you think people are out there protesting? They're not just protesting against police brutality. They're protesting against the injustices, the lack of action by Democratic leaders. There are homeless people here that are taking matters into their own hands and building communities here because guess what? The governor isn't doing crap for them. City council isn't doing crap for them. The mayors aren't doing crap for them. And guess what we have here in California? We have a Democratic supermajority. We have a Democratic supermajority all over Washington, Oregon, California. These are the places where there is more protests. Yep. And yet we have Democratic leaders. So how are you going to convince me that putting in Joe Biden, who's essentially to the right of all those people in charge right now, is going to make anything better? Are those people going to care about who becomes president tomorrow when they're homeless and sitting there? Do they really give a damn if it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump? Is their life going to be any different? No, it's not. Their life is dependent on the community that they're building and the local things that they're doing and how they're going outside the electorate to make change. Because if you sit and wait for the government to do something for you, guess what? You're going to be waiting a really long time.
Yeah. Well, Joe Biden, he beat the socialist, fam. So I think therefore, he has the right. Hey, look at my record. I beat the socialist. I looked at your record. There's a lot more of the things that seeing you.
We know you're not a socialist, Joe.
We know, Joe, and stuff. Know. So, fam, first article up. Why don't you just? Oh, sorry. Third-party votes represent dissent in the popular vote. They let Congress, the parties, the media, and the people know that there are voters who will vote that do not approve of the candidates that were selected by the main parties. In addition to this, they can help the party attain the 5% needed to qualify for public funding in the next election. The more dissenting votes, the greater the impact. So no matter what the establishment partisans tell you, third-party votes do count. Can I just also piggyback on that right there, too, as well? Not only that right there, not even about the third party, about possibly getting to the 5%. I think it's time to let the establishment know that we're not just going to vote for them when they give us nothing whatsoever. Right. I think you said it in your video, fam. They're giving you nothing. This whole thought process, the one with the clown that I'm going to vote for Biden, that he's better than Trump, and that's all that matters. And once Biden gets into power, then I'm going to make the power structure will to my demand. No. You make them move to get your vote. You don't just give them their vote and then count on them helping you out because they're going to leave you high and dry. Isn't it time that we send a message to the establishment, the Democratic establishment, that their days of doing business the way they do business are done? If you're going to be a party that says they're going to represent the working class people and the minorities and the people out there and the immigrants that are coming in and everybody who's suffering out there, with Medicare and whatnot, why don't you bend to the will of the people? But if you don't hold their feet to the fire, they're never going to do it. They're going to tell you blah, 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 that blah, 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 and then go ahead and push the policies that Donald Trump's pushing. There's not much, light between these two parties, fam. And I don't think until people say, hey, let's show these people we're not going to bend to the will of the Democratic Party ever again.
How do you hold people's feet to the fire? How are you going to push someone left that you don't control? You don't control Joe Biden. He doesn't work for you. He works for the corporations and the lobbyists in Washington, D.C.
No
He
shit.
works for Wall Street. That's who Joe Biden works for. How the hell do you think you're going to push Biden left? So you're going to give up all your power and you're going to let them know that no matter what they do to you, no matter how many times they beat you up and spit on you and chew you up and throw you out like you're nothing, that you're going to vote for them. And yes, and then you're going to say, oh, can you please pass Medicare for all? Is that what you're going to do? Well, guess what? It's not going to happen because you gave up your power. By voting for them, you are giving up the little increment of power that you have. That is all we have right now. And I'm not giving that up. Yeah. And a lot of people aren't giving that up. And it's not our fault that the Democratic Party completely rigged it to put down Bernie Sanders and to pretty much kill him in a metaphorical sense, because now all he's doing is parading for Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden is literally blasting him in his own sort of pitches to be the better Republican, because that's what he's doing instead of going after independents and progressives.
He's trying to be the better Republican.
He's trying to be the better Republican.
He hasn't even gone out to give the progressives nothing this whole time since he's secured the nomination. He's been going after the Republican vote. I'm not going to defund the police. What are you talking about? I'm not defunding
rioters and looters. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, all that stuff. Thing. He's not. I believe in Medicare for all. Well, I don't. Like, literally, he does. He said he would veto it in a pandemic. He's not even trying to be a Democrat now. He's trying to out Trump, and you have no shot of doing that. And the thing that I really hate is not only that the fact that you're going to capitulate to the establishment, is the fact that you're telling people who don't want to play this game anymore that they're privileged. You're shaming them in to try to vote for you, to vote for Joe, the segregationist Biden. It's disgusting. And you know who you are out there. Anytime, any place. Sorry.
And so Joe Biden blasted Bernie in his pitch to Wisconsin voters, saying, I beat the socialists. So let's hear what Joe Biden said in this interview to a Fox 11 news reporter. Yeah.
Talk to the voters that are worried about socialism and you raising taxes.
First of all, I guarantee, I promise, I've never broken my word. Anyone making less than $400,000 will not see one single penny in their tax raised. Number two, I beat the socialists. That's how I got elected. That's how I got the nomination. Do I look like a socialist? Look at my career, my whole career. I am not a socialist. Number three, what we're going to do is make sure that we make people begin to pay their fair share. I'm not trying to punish anybody.
Talk to the voters that are worried about...
I mean, he really cares about Republicans.
Yeah.
People have to pay their fair share. I'm not trying to punish anybody. And if you make, under 400,000, Holmes, man, 99% of this freaking state, this country's making under 400,000.
And he literally used every single Republican talking point.
Everyone.
I'm not a socialist. You can look at my record. Look, it says I'm not a socialist. I beat the socialists, so fuck Bernie Sanders, right?
Yeah.
Like, fuck him. He's out there doing more campaigning for me than my entire campaign staff is. But yeah, like, no, we don't want him. Oh, do you not want his base then? Because his base is never going to vote for you. Yeah. The true leftists and the true anti-establishment people aren't going to vote for Joe Biden. Yeah. And that's because we're listening to Bernie. We're listening to old Bernie. We're listening to the Bernie that didn't capitulate to the establishment. We're not going to listen to AOC and Bernie, who are telling you, sheep herding you back into the Democratic Party, a dead party that has absolutely nothing to do right now. There is zero ways progress forward with the Democratic Party. Progressives will never get anything within the Democratic Party, ever, because the Democratic Party has fought harder to push leftists and progressives and the anti-establishment people that we could all unite away than to defeat Donald Trump. This isn't trying hard to defeat Trump. Look at them. They're not even trying to defeat Trump.
And let me say this much to the people out there who say that we're going to vote Joe Biden and then we're going to go back to taking over the party. It's a fool's errand. you're never going to take over the party. You tried to take over the wrong party. You shouldn't have waited for Bernie Sanders. I mean, I can understand waiting for Bernie Sanders to try to run again. You know what I'm saying? Maybe having a lot of mechanisms in place that would stop the cheating from the establishment. He didn't. They got caught with their pants down again. But you out there who's saying that you're going to vote for Joe Biden and take the party over, you're kidding yourself right now. It has a corporate mechanism involved that it won't allow you to take over the party.
It is a fantasy.
Just look at the California Democratic Party. They have more pleos than people who can be voted in. They have this delegate process, which is way outnumbered by the pleos, meaning the legislation gets to pledge, take a person, whatnot, and they appoint people who are going to vote for them to keep their power. That's how they maintain their power. So stop with the fool's errand. You're barking up the wrong tree, and you're really making a fool out of yourself. And to those neo-progressives out there that are now working the phones for Joe Biden, out of here with that.
Yeah, there is no way forward with the Democratic Party. We see it in locally in California, even in the local areas. They're trying to throw people out for cursing. That you can't curse now. The civility bullshit. They're trying to do. They focus on all these stupid things that have nothing to do with policy, because if they focused on policy, then they wouldn't be working for the donors and the corporations that they're supposed to work for. That's the thing. You're never going to get over that structure. You might make a few changes here and there, but you're never going to be able to grab hold of that power. And we have seen it time and time again. We have seen the Obamas before. We have put the squad in there to oppose the party. And what happens? They have to work within the confinements of the Democratic, and then they go in there and they capitulate every single time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. In the 4 years, no matter who wins, they're going to say, you have to vote for this person because this person is really bad. That's what's been going on for the last decades. And it's going to keep happening over and over and over again until you stop it and stop giving in your power and stop thinking that you're morally superior.
That's
to
the
all
attitude
of
I
us.
can't
It's the
stand.
attitude of,
you're doing the right thing.
I'm following in Bernie's footsteps. Oh, look, AOC and Bernie, like, they said to do this, and the squad, so I'm following in their footsteps. Fuck that. Like, what? Who are they? They're politicians. They're public servants. They're supposed to serve us. You're not supposed to serve them, and you're treating them like they're celebrities, like they're deities, like they're these people right here, when no, they are grounded. They should be here, and you need to stop putting them on this pedestal that they don't deserve to be on, because they're capitulating to the establishment and they're preventing an actual revolution from happening. Revolutions don't happen within the Democratic Party. That's not a revolution. That's capitulation. So let's stop pretending that. Let's stop pretending that you're a better person because you're following their footsteps, that you're a better person because, I'm fighting for the immigrant kids. Who built those cages? Who built those cages? Who invaded Honduras and ousted their democratically elected leader? I have spoken to the people in Tijuana, the people who were migrants here, who came in the caravans, and they didn't name a Republican as the people who threw their democratically elected leader, Manuel Zelaya. They named Hillary Clinton. They named Hillary Clinton in her foreign policy. And I'm not saying that Republicans don't want to go to war. Obviously they do. Yeah. That's where the Democrats and the Republicans hold hands and make love, is when it comes to war and when it comes to power. Yeah. And that's where we're on the brink of right now. And if Joe Biden becomes president, the military-industrial complex and then the intelligence agencies, those people going after right now, Julian Assange, those people going after him are going to be the president, the real president.
Joe Biden whipping the phones, right, to make sure that Assange can't get extradition in other countries. Snowden, remember Snowden? Same thing with Assange, but Snowden. He was calling other countries, don't accept his extradition, don't let him come there, whatnot. We want to get him. And pretty much that's what he did, fighting against their civil liberties. And, I wrote down 5 areas, and I just want to make a point, too, as well. The fact that we were talking about Manuel Zelaya and actually what happened, who built those cages, that is the point where a lot of Republicans don't, when they say, build the wall, we want to protect our borders and stuff like that, that's the part that they ignore, the fact that we're causing the problem in the first place.
Problems.
So we're going to call balls and strikes across the board.
And also, really quickly, I just want to say, the Trump administration had the opportunity to pardon Assange. He still does, and he's not doing it either. So all of you Trump supporters who voted for him because you thought he was going to be the anti-interventionist, the guy that's going to take care of your civil liberties, he's doing the opposite. They're jailing people. But William Barr is making it impossible to protest now, threatening sedition on these protesters. Yeah. And so, I'm not defending Republicans here. I'm not saying go vote for Donald Trump. I'm saying screw the whole system as a whole. Yeah. I'm saying go outside the electorate. It is time for direct actions. Look at what is happening around you and stop thinking some politician is going to come and save you.
I made a post the other day. Gloria Jones, fees spitting fire right now. No cap. And then no crap. Or whatever. I love you, Glory. Thank you for super chat contributions. Always appreciated on the couch. I made a post the other day, and I have some serious, honest questions because a lot of people have contacted me personally. I have some friends, too, who they really think will be affected. I put 5 areas you think about. Is Joe better than Don? The ACA and healthcare, fam. Your thoughts on that? Because I have a friend of mine, I love him, whatnot. He really depended upon the ACA, and he feels if Donald Trump gets in office, and Donald Trump's been trying to dismantle the ACA from the get-go, and also healthcare, is it really a position where we should say, hey, maybe we should vote for Joe over Don because of healthcare?
Here's the thing. The ACA, Obama had both houses. He had both houses. He had the Senate and Congress. And instead of passing Medicare for all, he pushed the ACA, which is a completely corporatist sort of like paved way. It's a way to, it's the same type of neoliberal bullshit that they do is like, they're like, oh, we're giving you something, but they're really not. What they're really doing is slowing down the eventual collapse of this system, because you cannot have health insurance depend on money, on insurance companies. Not like, it is a human right. And so instead of fighting for Medicare for all and simply demanding it, when every major country on earth has a universal healthcare system, no matter what it is, it's not called Medicare for all, it's called whatever it is, but they have nationalized healthcare, every major country except us. So when you're saying, oh, we have to fight to protect the ACA, so we have to vote for Republicans, you're perpetuating the fact that we're never going to get Medicare for all because you are accepting that.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing.
It's not time for incrementalism. We don't have time for it.
I think Joe Biden's been plain and clear. He said he would veto Medicare for all in the middle of a freaking pandemic. You know what I'm saying? He's tied to Big Pharma. We know this. The ACA might have had some bright spots in it, but for the most part, it didn't fix the healthcare problem we had in this country. So if, in fact, you vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump because if you want to protect the ACA, you're actually taking us 2 steps back. Because the same kind of insurance-mandated mentality of healthcare, which is what will be implemented. You know what I'm saying? It's better if we let the 4 years go through and then come back with some real healthcare and a candidate who's willing to fight for it and stand up for it and not bow down to the very bought off by the Big Pharma Democratic Party across the board.
And it's not even about letting it off 4 years or Trump winning or any of this. It's about, you want healthcare? Demand healthcare. What are we doing? Why aren't we having mass protests for healthcare? Yeah. Why does that not happen? Why are there thousands of people protesting Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, and I don't see thousands of people protesting for economic inequality in this country? That doesn't happen in this country. People don't protest for those things. Yeah. Why? Why? Do you think it doesn't matter? It absolutely matters. That is how people achieve change. We need to look to countries like France. We need to look at these countries that make their politicians cry. They make their politicians leave because they don't shut up. And they halt and they don't stop until they get what they need. Yeah. That's what we need to do. Stop begging for scraps because that's all you're ever going to get.
Okay, well, what about this issue of immigration and undocumented immigrants? Because a friend of mine, the last year when it was a thread with some friends, and one particular woman told me, "Hey, I'm sick and tired of this particular party, the Trump administration trying to take over, whatnot," and was kind of saying for immigration and undocumented immigrants, we had to vote for the Democrats. Somebody today on that thread said, I'm voting for Joe Biden. It's somebody I love and respect. And she said, I'm voting for Joe Biden because I have undocumented friends. And then I'm going to try to, the second part of her comment was, I'm going to get in there to fight to take back the Democratic Party. Number one, you never had the Democratic Party. 2, you're never going to take it, period. That's just pipe dreams. But what about the fact of immigration and undocumented immigrants? Would Joe be better than Don on that?
Joe Biden is the guy that literally wanted to build a wall in 2007. I don't know if you can find it. I think we played it before. Yeah. But Joe Biden was telling people,
build a fence. He said a fence, but
yeah. Well, but it was a 7-mile long. Yeah. Giant fence, which is essentially the same thing. He was in a meeting with people and he was advocating for that. He's wanted to do that for a long time. With the Obama administration, Joe Biden, and like I said, and Obama literally built the cages for these kids to go in. They set up this whole system. That's why I'm saying Joe Biden is the architect of the system for Trump to exploit. This is what Trump is exploiting. We would never have Donald Trump if we didn't have Obama, Bush, Clinton, and others before him. This is where we come to. Problems didn't just begin with Trump. Trump has made the problem so glaringly aware, which is why people hate him too, because it's like he's made it everybody be like, wow, this is how ugly it is. But and you can hate Donald Trump all you want, and I'm not saying not to hate him, but what I am saying is he is a symptom of this whole bigger issue. And Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton continued their warmongering foreign policy, which led to mass immigration into this country, which leads to Republicans using that to blame the Democrats and to blame immigrants. So white working class people who have been left behind by the Democratic Party go and say, oh, it's that immigrant is taking my job. It's that immigrant that is getting in the way. You shouldn't give them anything. Yeah. We need to protect us first, because guess what happens then? You fight with those people instead of looking at who is really behind that. And it's the oligarchs. It's these elites that are doing that. And it's not a conspiracy theory. That is reality. It is these people in power that are so corrupt and so greedy that they try to pit people against each other so we don't go after the real culprits. And so when you vote red or blue, that's literally what you're doing. You're perpetuating that divide. And as an immigrant and as a Latina and as somebody that's gone in there and talked to these people, no one president is going to solve this issue. This is bigger. This issue is related directly to foreign policy. We need to abolish ICE. Well, that also means defunding the police, which also means demilitarizing the police, which also means the military industrial complex and the CIA are involved. Because if you want to abolish ICE, you have to want to abolish the CIA who created them. You're going to defund the Pentagon just as well. And fam, and when it comes to foreign policy, I'm so sorry. These are one of the areas where not that I think Donald Trump is great on, but I think he's a lot better than Joe Biden. Look at Joe Biden's history and what they've done, the other states, the other countries they've gone into. And, this is an issue where I tell Republicans, hey, man, you wouldn't even need a wall if we'd stop getting involved in these other countries like Honduras, like Guatemala, like Salvador. Donald Trump has perpetuated the whole system. But once again, actual moves that were made, Bolivia too as well, but the actual moves that were made, and just listening to Joe Biden the other day when it comes to foreign policy, he's no better. In fact, I think he's worse. He still wants to keep troops in Afghanistan. He still wants to keep troops in Iraq. And I'm saying the power vacuum, the spreading democracy, that's the rhetoric from the establishment left. And this is an area where the neo-progressives, unfortunately, and the neo-progressives are the ones who are telling you to vote for Joe Biden, good-hearted at the core, but they don't understand foreign policy. They don't connect the dots. They don't even look at it. They don't even look at the civil liberties issue. It doesn't matter. It's terrible. It doesn't matter to them.
What about the EPA, fam? Because, we got, I think it was Scott Pruitt. You had Rex Tillerson. These guys are really, really bad. Donald Trump, when it comes to climate change, is awful. Joe Biden's got a better score from Greenpeace than Donald Trump. Even though Barack Obama was the fracker in peace. Can we make a case for Joe Biden is better for the environment than Donald Trump?
Joe Biden did not adopt the Green New Deal. Okay. Joe Biden believes in science. So yes, Joe Biden believes in science. Okay. He gets 1 point for that. But where he gets negative points is believing in science like the Democrats do, and knowing that you believe in science and knowing what's happening, and then still not doing what needs to be done to curtail climate catastrophe. That's worse to me than being an idiot and not believing in science, because you believe in it, you understand it, and you knowingly aren't going to do enough to stop what's happening. You're in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of economic collapse and climate catastrophe. You're not going to pass something like a New Deal, like create new jobs in a sector that needs to be explored, like wind power, solar energy, marijuana. The marijuana industry, the hemp industry, all these industries that could be explored. Instead of doing that, you're going to mock it like Nancy Pelosi did and say Green New Deal or whatever, while California is burning. Governor Newsom has issued hundreds of fracking permits, hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
40 since the pandemic started.
And he's a Democrat.
Since the pandemic started.
And he's a Democrat. Yeah. Dianne Feinstein. Ooh, she completely mocked
when she told the little kids.
Pelosi, I could go on and on. Obama was the fracker in chief. He was the fracker in chief.
Fam, when it comes to Standing Rock, let's just see how things play out. And Joe Biden was silent. Joe Biden took fracking money. And once again, I think Fiorella has kind of pointed out a lot of her videos, and we talk about this when it comes to the judges or the EPA or anybody they have to appoint. They're just as conservative as the Republicans pick whatsoever. They're all about big corporate austerity, whatnot, and stuff. Okay, but I have a point here, fam. What about racial justice? When it comes to racial justice, Trump, even though he has more people of color voting for him than McCain, Romney, all those guys, you know what I'm saying? racial justice has to be in the ballpark of Joe Biden. If you care about racial justice, even though he said, I don't want my kids growing up in a jungle, you have to vote for Joe, a racial jungle, I think he said, right? Something like that.
And Hillary Clinton's super predator.
Yeah. Just because he wrote the crime, but what about racial justice, fam?
I just want to say, Donald Trump foments anti-immigration rhetoric. Donald Trump foments climate change, anti-climate change rhetoric. Donald Trump foments this idea that these protesters are violent looters and all of that. All of that is very true. You cannot deny that. Donald Trump uses this language that incites people to go after these protesters and incites people to go after immigrants and people of color. Yes, Donald Trump absolutely does that because he knows his base and he's exploiting that. He's exploiting this for political gain. That is awful, and I recognize that, and I think he's an awful, awful person, and I will never vote for him. But what Joe Biden and the Democrats do is that they pretend to be your friend. They're wolves in sheep's clothing, and they go and they say, oh, we care about racial justice, and we're going to put Black Lives Matter everywhere, and we're going to put a rainbow out there, and we're going to put in a statue of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but we're not going to give you equal pay. We're not going to give you defunding the police. We're not going to give you the money and the economic change needed for actual equity. We're not going to do that because we don't really want that, because we profit off of the status quo. So we're not going to change that. And that's what the Democratic Party has done. They have tokenized and weaponized people of color, non-Black people, Latino people, immigrants, women. They have tokenized us. And I'm sick and tired of being tokenized by the Democratic Party. This is why Donald Trump has more minority support, because they're so goddamn awful that they're driving people to the right. And it is scary to see. I don't want people going to the right, but that's what the Democratic Party is doing. They're doing that. Yeah. And if people aren't going to the left and then being shamed and insulted, then where do you want them to go? Because they're not going to go back to the Democratic Party. And all the Democrats do is just say Black Lives Matter, and then they go and turn around like Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden and say, oh, well, we support these protests. We support these protests. Yeah, but they never show up at protests. They never show solidarity with protests. They try to get rid of people like Shama Sawant who want to defund the police. They try to do all these things because they don't want change. They just want your vote without doing anything, and they talk pretty, but they're not going to change anything. Again, these Democratic governors in charge are all going after these protesters. Again, Joe Biden wrote the 1994 crime bill. Kamala Harris has jailed more Black and brown people than anybody else, and she did the whole theatrics, the whole theatrics at the Democratic debate.
She liked to listen to Tupac, Biggie, and Snoop Dogg and smoke weed and laugh about it while she jailed so many people for doing so as well, and then kept them in prison or jail to make sure that they work for cheap labor force to fight the fires, whatnot. I mean, she had a reason for doing it and stuff like that.
We can pull up Biden's record.
Yeah,
I mean, his record with people of color, he did by writing that crime bill and by Bill Clinton signing it, that took the 13th Amendment and made slavery into the prison system.
Business. That's it.
That's what happened. Yeah. And that was done by Democrats.
Slavery. That's it.
So if you support a Biden-Harris ticket, sorry, but you can't say Black Lives Matter and actually mean it. Because you know what? Obviously, it only matters symbolically. We're not getting any actual change from that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to even ask about criminal justice when you mentioned the 1994 crime bill, because I don't think criminal justice is an area where Donald Trump is much worse than Joe Biden when Joe Biden authored that bill. You know what I'm saying? And I want to say, and the whole 9 yards.
They're both awful. I'm not trying to convince you here that one is better than the other. That doesn't even matter at this point. What matters is that we look beyond the electorate, look beyond the duopoly, stop being weapons used, tools of the establishment used to manipulate for their own narrative. And they just keep weaponizing us and weaponizing us and weaponizing us, and we don't get anything out of it.